Hi, everybody. So let's start talking about, I guess, the high level about Windchill PLM, just as a quick introduction. I know we've got a few people who are a bit new here, and then we'll get into the classification side of things. Okay. So, Windchill as a PLM system, it's an enterprise system for product data. Okay, and there are three main areas of that. So the first one is the digital product definition. So that's basically managing all of that digital data that you are generating. Add documents, part information, change, whatever that might be. Okay. The second part of that is strategic processes around that data. Okay. So that is how do we handle things like change, releasing, approvals, and all the rest of that side of things. Okay. And then the third part is visualization. Okay. So as this system becomes the repository of all of that information, we've got lots of people who will need to maybe see and consume that data. So the ability for them to visualize the information stored inside that system without access to the native tools. So they can review that data, view it, maybe take measurements, do markups and things like that. Okay, so I guess as Paul said before, Windchill is, I guess, a suite or a product family. It's not just a single bit of software, and it covers a whole range of different areas. So the webinars that we've run earlier this year, we've run a whole series on PLM, and I guess this is like, I guess, the last one for the year, being very close to Christmas. We've covered a lot of these different areas of Windchill. So as Paul said, if you want to see them a little bit more, please go back and revisit our blog. And there's a lot more detail on some of these topics there. But the focus today is going to be on basic classification. Okay. So before I dive into that, just a little bit about the object model for Windchill, because this is an important part to relate to what we're talking about today. So Windchill, in terms of how it stores and manages objects, we can store content, but it's really based around this this object-based digital data model. So I have the concept of this part, the digital part that represents the object that we make or buy, maintain, whatever it might be. Okay, represented as this gear icon here. So that part has a whole bunch of stuff around it. So that part could have a multi-level structure, or it could be a single standalone item. It might have describing CAD information. Okay, Creo could be other CAD tools, parts assemblies, drawings that give a lot of detail about that. There might be some derived content from that. Okay, so we might have, PDF copies of drawings, step files generated from models, whatever it might be. We've got a history and versions of that. Okay, so revisions over time, iterations as we check in and out, so we can have that historical record of what was in there. We have metadata, okay, attributes and properties that help describe that, and that's a big part of classification, which we're going to be looking at. We can have automation for that object and life cycles or life cycle management to help drive that object through its life cycle, how we handle it through the business. We can use that to help control access to that object as it matures over time. We might be looking at things like approved manufacturer or vendor lists if we're looking at manufacturing or supply or purchase parts. We might have other documentation that helps describe that rather than just the CAD. Okay, so that could be controlled or uncontrolled documents. And then we might have a whole bunch of other information as well. Quality information, we might need to be able to search and link to that. We might want to integrate that into other systems, build dashboards and analytics on that. Okay, and really the part is the key to all of that. Okay, so what that looks like, from a Windchill user perspective, we've got content that we store inside Windchill as documents. That could be CAD data that might come from a CAD system like Creo, where we might have CAD models and drawings and all that structure. We might have documents, which are things like PDFs or Word documents or the like. So we can manage that content, but then we can also create these parts, these digital parts, these gear icons that represent the object. Okay, so we can build them from a CAD structure, so they follow the same. We can start to relate those documents, other documents, to that structure or to those items to help us, trace and find things when it comes to making changes into the system. Now, maybe we might have other CAD tools that are used as well. So we've built our golf cart in Creo, but we've got another division that creates the golf bags in AutoCAD. So they too could also create, parts to represent that item. But what we can then start to do is, take that part for the golf bag and add it into the golf cart structure. So it can start to build up a more complete BOM structure of our golf cart rather than just something that comes from CAD. Maybe we've got documentation that needs to go into that. That's actually an item that ships with the product, the manual. That's something that needs to go in the BOM as well. So we could create a part for the manual. We could attach the document to that. There's no CAD for the manual, and then we can again include that into the structure. Okay, so that's really the core of Windchill, how it sort of stores and manages content and relationships through these structures. And it's really around these parts, and that's going to be the focus of classification today.